You're listening to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch TV about New Jersey. We are on Season 1, Episode 7 of Yellowjackets. And I'm Jodie.
I'm Andrea.
We did it. We got through it.
It's called No Compass.
Yes.
How do you say that word?
Compass. I don't know how that sounds. Oh, well, you have that, like, compass.
Yeah, and I said it, and then I was like, is that how I say that word?
Yeah. I say compass.
Compass.
Yeah.
I think I say compass. Why do people say that?
Because it's South Jersey.
Do we say that down here?
There's definitely a, yeah.
Do listeners know about the missing prepositions? Do you know about the missing prepositions down here? It's a Philly, South Jersey thing. I don't even know how to lead into this. Like, if I have finished, I'm going to do it with all of my tasks for the day. I will say I'm done work.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I almost said if I finished all my tasks for the day. If I'm done drinking my coffee, I will say I'm done my coffee. I will not say with my coffee.
Oh, interesting.
And it is so ingrained, and it's something that somebody pointed out, I think, on TikTok, and it's not one that I notice unless I have to think about it, the way that I do notice other things. Like, I hear myself say water, like I can hear that. But the done work one I'm like, I still think everybody says that, but apparently they don't.
No, we don't.
But like, you would say I'm done with my coffee?
Yeah.
Like, that feels crazy. I'm done my coffee.
No. I think if I heard somebody say that, I would maybe think that it was a Philly thing, which would make sense. I will say, the longer we do this podcast, I think the more my Jersey accent is coming back, because I keep catching it when I'm teaching.
You're so welcome.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I had gotten rid of it for so long. I never had it that strong. My mom has it. Oh yeah. But yeah, I notice it more now when we talk.
I don't think I have, compared to other people in South Jersey and Philly. I can see in your face that you're disagreeing, but it's because I'm the only person you talk to from down here. But next to anybody else,
every time you say down, I'm like, okay, Andrea.
I thought you were going to say talk.
No,
down.
Talk is the one that I mess up all the time, or not mess up. I say a certain way all the time, so I don't even hear it if other people do it.
It is funny. Jersey has a Jersey accent that spans north to south, and then also you guys have some stuff that's your thing, and we have some stuff that down.
It's the New York versus down.
Down.
It's a Southern thing.
Does that sound Southern to you?
It sounds Southern.
Jodie!
It's like a little bit of a drawl. Like, you guys have a drawl.
You have a drawl.
No, I don't.
Southern. That's rude to me and our Southern listeners.
I mean, I'm not wrong, though.
I can't believe you just said I was Southern. Well, I have a Southern New Jersey accent, certainly.
I know. Yeah. So how are we going to do this episode? Are we going to split it in half?
I think we do 96, 2021. I don't think we split up the characters in 2021, because the only one we can do that with really is Misty, but... Yeah,
they're all kind of together for this. Okay, so Ty is taking them for a mission. Mm-hmm. There's no food. Yeah, the cold is coming, Andrea.
Yeah, and not just like regular cold. We're talking dying feels like falling asleep cold.
Mm-hmm. Little foreshadowing there.
A little bit.
Yeah, we're so close to that episode.
I know. These last three. Well, I remember the conversation. Well, I remember us talking about the conversation of the last 3 episodes of Yellowjackets at the time being talked about as this really crazy run of intenseness. And it's here it comes.
Here it comes. Yeah, exactly. Laura Lee's looking to Lottie. Mm-hmm. And Lottie's like, I don't fucking know, man. Yeah, she's just like, shit feels weird and bad, and I can't tell you anything else than that.
It's kind of cool to see this subtle, because we think of Lottie as this, especially knowing who she becomes in adulthood, this sort of cult leader who really kind of leans into, but we see that's not the case, and it's kind of nice to be reminded of oh right, Lottie is just a kid who they kind of put into this position.
They absolutely put her in this position. Mm-hmm. They all start looking to her because she's having these visions, you know? They have an argument about them not taking the rifle. There's all this stuff about what she should take with her.
This is the who are you, Edmund Hillary? Who? joke.
Mm-hmm. Edmund fucking Hillary.
He's one of the first people to reach the top of Everest.
Yes, I had to look that up.
Yeah, so did I.
I couldn't remember. There's also a shot leading into part of this conversation of just like this giant tree. We keep getting these like comparisons of Ty to big trees or Ty in big trees. So Ty is like somebody I remember said like that she looked like a tree when they were high or something later on. I think it was maybe during Doomcoming.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, we keep having Ty associated with trees.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe interesting. We'll see. Lottie pulls out the bone.
Which gets passed around into season 2, because I remember at one point, I think during Shauna's birth scene, I think somebody tucks it into Shauna's hand, and we questioned at the time where that came from in the first place. It's here. And
you're so right.
Lottie's looking for it, like she knows it's going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, and she says it didn't burn at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously now, when we know what happens later in this episode, and we know that Ty has that while she's in the tree. And I'd forgotten that. Actually, we'll get to that in a minute, but I'd forgotten that Ty not only is holding the flare gun while she's up the tree, but she also is holding the bone.
She's got the bone and the flare gun.
She took it from Van.
Yep.
Which is like, about.
It's not just that Ty has like not on purpose, but abandoned her station. She's also taken the protection with her, which is like,
and it was around Van's neck. Like she had to purposely like take that off of her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it is. Yeah, that scene said a lot more this watch through than it did the first time.
Agreed. Yeah. We get our important haircut.
I know. I was very excited to see that.
Especially after watching all those movies with the like Legend of Billie Jean, and so many have important haircuts.
There's so many of them. I mean, just go back.
Yeah.
Empire Records. They're all over the movies we watched during that break.
Yeah, and it's very much like a symbolic, shit's getting serious moment, abandoning the old ways and moving forward in some new, darker but maybe more powerful way.
Mm-hmm. Van thinks it's hot.
Yeah.
We get this moment with Van.
I know.
It is so much easier to watch all of this knowing she lives and makes it to 2021.
Absolutely. Yeah, she talks about she's only been to the city once. She wanted to get a pretzel and take a carriage ride.
She wanted a soft pretzel and a carriage ride, yep.
Which is such a bridge and tunnel thing to say.
I kind of thought that. I was like, I was kind of surprised that North Jersey wouldn't be too cool for that.
Well, okay, so we were too cool for that. But they're not necessarily Bergen County kids, as we have discussed. Bergen County kids were sneaking into the city in high school, a la Cali. And going to clubs and shit like that. That's like what we were doing in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going on carriage rides and buying pretzels. I was when I was little.
I was just going to say, she's like kind of like hearkening back or like holding on to a kind of younger innocence.
Yeah. Like when I was a little kid and I went into the city, we would go to a museum and get a pretzel and like do the cultural things.
Right.
Mostly in my family, it was museums, but, Museum of Natural History, the Met, that kind of thing. But she got taken to see Cats.
Mm-hmm.
I did go see Phantom of the Opera. It's the only Broadway musical I've ever seen, which is ridiculous, but
that's funny.
I saw Phantom.
I don't think I've ever seen a Broadway show. I've seen stuff in Philly, but I don't think I've ever seen any like legitimate shows on Broadway.
I don't like sitting still for that long.
I really like live theater.
Me too. I just am not good at being trapped like that physically.
But yeah, so she wants to.
Yeah.
She
wants to go with Ty so that they make it back together.
We know that they don't break up right away in 2021. Or when we get to 2021, we know when they make it back, they stay together for a little while. Do you think we're going to get that scene?
Oh my God, I hope so. I need that to like balance out all of the horror.
Right?
Yeah. We need them in Central Park on a carriage, eating
With
pretzels.
a soft pretzel.
Under a blanket, like on a slightly chilly, like fall, early winter day. Yeah, I need that. I definitely need that.
So nice.
Mari and Akila decide to go as well.
Yeah, the fact that they're set up as such red shirts. Like these two people that we really haven't heard talk very much up to this point. We really don't get much of either of them until season 2, though more than I remembered. Yeah, like when we were watching season 2, we all kind of were watching them like, oh, suddenly Mari and Akila are around, but they were around for sure.
Yeah, they were dropping little things to develop, particularly Mari's personality. Yeah, and then Travis is packing to go. And we get a scene where Nat, like, just kind of breaks down and asks him not to go. Right. And he seems relieved. Because I think he was just going because he felt like, well, they need a man there. They have that whole conversation about how it's, like, kind of sexist of him to say that.
I love Nat. I'm sure with a little effort, you can overcome the sexist part. I love Nat. I'm going to do this every week, but man, is it hard to watch her in 2021. Like,
it's really, I mean, this episode was rough in that sense. I reacted to it a lot when we got there. Actually, I think this is one of the places where there was some interesting connection between the two sections? No, that was later. But there's a Nat, Travis, Kevin thing that happens later. So Van grabs the compass from the plane. Lottie gives Van the bone.
And we get the premonition. She saw red smoke in a river of blood.
Cedar water?
It's cedar water.
Did I say that right?
No.
Cedar water?
Cedar water. They kind of rhyme.
Cedar water. Yeah. Yeah. Although now it's so funny watching it back and hearing Misty mention later on iron ore. And I know.
I feel like we've all like all of that speculation later in season 2 felt like we were all doing a lot of work, but they were giving it to us early on.
Yeah.
So they keep it. The back and forth is so smart because there are certain things like the stuff with Jeff later where I'm like, how did we ever think it was anybody else? And it's like, well, the back and forth of it all. And like, there's so many red herrings again, later we'll talk about with like Adam and even Callie to an extent, like that. I just feel like we never had time to think about anything long enough at what, like, to pin anything down.
Yeah. They're jumping around a lot. They're dropping all these little hints. Some that end up kind of materializing and some that don't. We get Misty watching Ben and Ty through the window and getting jealous of their like bonding moment.
It's so funny.
How he's clearly like proud of Ty for doing this and kind of getting her ready. Misty's like, I need to be in on this.
She's so funny here. Ben is so good when she's like giving him this "you can't talk me out of it" speech that she has prepared, and he's just like,
"You're so brave."
Just like, so you could just see him doing the math in his head of like, how much do I have to buy in to not make her suspicious, but also to make sure that she does go because I need her to leave. It's perfect.
Like, can't be like, oh yeah, go have fun. Yeah.
And the like exhale that he gives when she turns away, it's like the first time he's done that since they crashed.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I noticed a warm hug between Ty and Shauna here. There's just like, we're seeing so much buildup of their friendship over the years.
Yeah.
Oh. And then Jackie confronts Shauna. It's so sad. It's like, Jackie, I don't know. Every time I watch this, I'm more of a fan of Jackie.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, she is selfish in a lot of ways. In most of the ways, she doesn't really think of Shauna as existing as a person on her own. All of that is true, but she does really care about her in her own way. Like she doesn't like that she's being lied to, and that's a big part of it. But she does want to know.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine? I mean, like, okay, if you put yourself back in the head of like a 16, 17-year-old and you have a best friend that you have this like weirdly intimate relationship with, right?
Sounds familiar.
I know. I was like, yeah,
let's see if I can try to put my okay.
Can you imagine not telling that friend that you lost your virginity?
Well, that
would be the first thing. First person.
That like, especially with them, there's that scene last week where they're going through the script of like, what will I say to Jeff for you, blah, 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 that they didn't talk for a week beforehand, making a pros and cons list of who Shauna should lose her virginity to.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. No, that's so why right. I think it's so, like, if you add on the typical teen girl friendship thing, that's why she was that upset. Like, if my best friend didn't call me as soon as she lost her virginity, I would be like, who are you?
But it is very Jackie of her, for her first question to be like, why didn't you tell me? Not like, how was it? Not who was it? Like, the first question is she spins it right back on herself, which is Jackie's biggest flaw.
Right. But it's also just general 16, 17-year-old teen girl selfishness. But she tells her it was Randy, which is the logical, like, lie there, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ella Purnell's so good here, too. Just her, like, delivery when she's like, I have so many questions.
Yeah.
I like her so much.
Yeah.
She does say, we're going to get through this together, which is, like...
They're not.
But it is also that, man, that codependency of, like, are we? I do always think of, I know that, like, that's sort of the joke, but I do always think of that baby as Jackie's baby, not Jeff's baby. Like,
yeah. Well, and later on, I mean, Shauna eats part of Jackie.
For sustenance.
Yeah. That kind of goes into
like soul sustenance, not like caloric sustenance.
Well, both. They're walking through the woods with Ty and Van. They have that funny comment about, if this was a movie, Ty, you would obviously die first.
She says no because you're the skeptical one.
Yeah.
They also set up the, like, if this was a horror movie, Lottie would be the villain.
Yeah.
That whole thing I thought was really interesting, especially with how we've, like, in the beginning with Lottie in season 2, we're, like, trying to figure out what her motives are. I think we've landed on just feeling sorry for her more than anything at this point, but yeah. But yeah,
I mean, the end of this season, the last line is, who the fuck is Lottie Matthews?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So, like, she is being set up as the villain.
And we know that, like, somebody cleared out, this is the episode where we found out that somebody cleared out Travis's bank account. We know now that was Lottie, right? Yeah. But like, but so they really were setting us up for that. Also, I forgot, or it didn't click at the time, that Lottie predicted the prom queen the year before, and also a teacher scandal. Yeah. So we know that she's had, even when she was medicated, Lottie was having although predicted the prom queen is like,
that's not that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how big their school is, but you could probably figure that out.
We all knew who was going to be prom queen.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we get the sad little sex scene between Nat and Travis here.
All I wrote for this is Travis continues to be a giant baby. This is a scene, though. It does come right after, in 2021, Nat is telling the other girls, the other women, about the fact that she's sleeping with Kevin Tan.
Kevin Tan. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. Yeah.
This happens right here.
Yeah. Again, we keep seeing Travis and Kevin kind of put in opposition to each other as these two different types of men that either are drawn to Nat or Nat is drawn to.
Right. And that Nat, because of everything that happened out in the woods, can't let Kevin be good to her and can't, like, let that relationship happen. And
she's so mean to him at the end.
Oh, God. Man, Juliette Lewis, I don't know if I've said this on this podcast before. She was never, I know this is sacrilegious as a woman who grew up in the 90s, or what, a girl who grew up in the 90s, whatever. Juliette Lewis was never a favorite of mine before this show. Like, I just never clicked with her. She's so good. We'll get there, but her in that scene, it's all in her face. It's amazing.
Yeah. I was a fan of her from, I think it was Natural Born Killers.
She's in lots of movies that I love. And she had always kind of stuck out to me. It's like, oh, I love that movie, but for, but yeah.
Yeah, no, she's heartbreaking.
So good. But Nat, young Nat, continues as always. Travis is a baby and she's so patient with him and he does not deserve it. Like,
no.
Even a little bit.
She's trying to manage his ego through the whole thing. And it's just not.
And she's never given him any reason to think that she is judging him or that he needs to feel so, like, she's been so much better to him than he deserves.
That she has more experience than him.
Yep.
That's it.
And he's such a baby about it. And I'm like, you guys are just out in the wilderness. Like, you've let so many other things go. Like, can you just?
I know. But I mean, you cannot overstate how big of a deal that felt like it was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like your number, or
totally.
Like if you were still a virgin and all of that stuff, especially for guys.
Mm-hmm. And it is funny, we see that like in this episode with Jackie and Shauna, right? Like, so it's not, it's just really hard to give him any kind of grace when he acts this with her. But also maybe part of that is because I do feel so fiercely for Nat and want, like, yeah. No, he's being a child about it. Jackie in this next conversation with Shauna is starting to get suspicious. Yeah.
Because she realizes that there's a timing issue and that maybe she senses Shauna's lying to her.
Well, and like she says, how could I possibly have missed it? And Shauna says, like, I have a life outside of you, but
she doesn't really.
She doesn't.
No.
And the reason that Jackie missed it is because she's hiding it and trying really hard to hide it from her because it's Jeff, we know, but like Jackie's right, totally right to be suspicious on all fronts.
And I think Shauna saying, I have a life outside of you,
yeah,
would
Jackie's
be the thing that would be like, wait, no, you don't.
Totally.
When?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we just take a second to talk about Shauna's drink of choice? Malibu and milk.
Oh, God.
Jodie, what?
Okay, so full disclosure, I don't drink. Full disclosure, I've never drank. So I only know what this is just from seeing other people drink it. But like, isn't that milk on milk?
Well, Malibu is
it's very sweet,
rum,
right?
But it's rum, but it's like tropical. So it's like I guess it's like a poor man's pina colada is the
okay.
But like you're just at a party with a glass of milk and it like.
I mean, my friends were drinking Boone's Farm, so.
Hey, Jodie, how dare you compare Boone's Farm to Malibu and milk?
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, my point in saying that was not to compare the two. It was to say that teen taste in alcohol is often, what did I try first? Or what are my friends drinking? Or what is available?
Well, and that, to me, is what makes Malibu and milk highly suspicious and tells you that there is something wrong with Shauna because nobody else in her high school was drinking Malibu and milk. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Horrifying.
That's fair. Yeah. No, it just sounds gross.
Yeah. Yeah. Shauna's shirt in French says "Glimmer of Hope," by the way.
Oh no.
With a bunch of butterflies on it, yeah.
I remember the butterfly shirt.
Yeah,
but...
it's in French, but it says "Glimmer of Hope" is what it translates to.
That's sad.
Boy.
Okay. Well, we're around the fire. This whole section.
Oh, it's to make you fall even more in love with Van, so then your heart can be broken when.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot this was over a couple of nights because the first thing that happens is they're traveling and then they're around the fire. Van is, of course, recounting the plot of While You Were Sleeping. Our girl Sandy. It's
just, I know, we know, but I love Van so much.
It's so good. They hear the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And Ty says wolves are afraid of humans.
Mm-hmm.
And they get into like who's going to take watch first.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I noted that right after this, it flips to 2021 and Misty is just casually watching the movie that was recounted the night that her friend was violently attacked by a wolf and smiling about it.
It is
psychotic.
It's like her eating the jerky and not even making the connection that might be.
Or making the connection and thinking of these as fond memories.
Yeah, it is.
Like, this
she
is like later on in season 2 when they're sitting around the fire at Lottie's compound and she says that thing about like something where she's like wanting to reminisce and they're like, what, you want to reminisce about the 19 months we spent starving in the woods? Like,
exactly.
What are you talking about? But she thinks of them as these like, childhood memories. She's like watching it on that little TV.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I love
super
her.
Creepy.
We get more of Shauna and Javi.
They're so cute.
It's really
She's
sweet.
such a big sister vibe.
She really is. Like, again, not something I clocked the first time through, but as we've been watching for it.
He's looking for the knife for an art project.
Because Javi's a little artist.
Yeah. Weird.
Yep. She hides her journal.
Yeah. Nothing like, Chekhov's journal.
Chekhov's journal.
In the rafters. At least they did wait a long time for that to pay off, because at first you're kind of like, why are they pulling up to the ceiling? And then you see it and you're like, is that going to be? Yeah, okay, same episode. That's going to be important. Although I still don't know how Jackie knows it's up there, but
yeah,
that's a little blip, but
fine.
Yeah, like why is she in the rafters
in the first
place?
What
is Jackie doing?
Unless
climbing around
she
in the ceiling.
Was watching Shauna like through a window or something, which maybe. Like,
but
who knows?
we don't see it.
Yeah. This is when we get that river of blood, which again could be iron. This is another argument for these girls. I still think they're Monmouth County girls, but I think they would be able to recognize Cedarwooder at the very least, whether it's iron or not. And they do make a
I think the Pine Barrens are more of a secret part of New Jersey, even to New Jerseyans, than we think they are.
Maybe if you didn't have a stepfather who worked in the cranberry bogs,
for example,
be a little more connected.
That's
a good point. That's a really good point. Okay.
And the compass is spinning.
Which, again, all very easily explained away, I think, at least in TV show logic, by iron deposits in the water. And so, sure.
Magnetic. Compasses are magnetic.
Right. Or we all know a spinning compass is I'm struggling with how I say that word. I tried to get both versions into that one, and it sounded crazy. Or supernatural. Right.
Either one. And we get it. We get that right there. Like Mari and Van are both like, ooh, something weird's happening. And Ty is like, no, there's an explanation for everything. I am so Ty. I'm like...
She says the woods don't give a shit, which I really like.
Is fucking... I'm sorry, Ty's right. Like, I understand that there's a group of people that are really into the supernatural part of this show, but the woods don't give a shit. No, like, anyone who does regular hiking or camping, that is something that you have to internalize.
Yeah, and I think the problem, I don't know if that's the right word, but the issue with this show having drawn such a clear, like, encouraging such a clear argument with, is it supernatural, is it trauma, is it, there's no, I don't know what they're going to do at the end, because they have shown us over and over and over
that
again.
It could be both.
Well, that it could be both, but whenever they resolve something, it always ends up being trauma. It always ends up being, or the women doing it to themselves, like over and over and over again. So then at the end, if that's all it ends up being, people are going to be disappointed, because it's like, well, then why but if you do give us some confirmation of the supernatural, then it's kind of like, I think you and I are going to be...
They've painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
You know?
Though I think this is the case with any kind of media that does this, where it's like, well, if you make us go back and forth between two things, it's unsatisfying to not give us a definitive answer, and it's also unsatisfying to give us a definitive answer. So I don't know what you can do other than make it a little bit of everything. But even that, I just don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I just was thinking about this idea of like the inconclusive ending. I watched the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon with Donald Glover.
I love him, but
Maya Erskine.
How was it?
It was entertaining. It was very preposterous and very over the top, but you know, why would you not want to watch Donald Glover on your screen for like that many hours? But the ending in that is extremely inconclusive. It ends on you don't know what actually happened. You have like two options really. And it may come back for another season, it may not, but it was left on such a unanswered question. And I wonder about, like, is that something...
It's so hard because that used to just be a cliffhanger, but we can't rely on shows coming back to resolve for us anymore, that it's like...
Yeah. I know.
I don't have the strength for a cliffhanger anymore.
Yeah. Well, and so I was listening to the Ringer podcast about it, and their reaction to it being inconclusive was extremely positive. They were like, oh, I love an inconclusive ending. And I'm like, I don't know that I do. Like, I kind of want to know.
I don't know that I do anymore. I used to really be into that. I love the idea that, and I think one of the strengths of this show, and the reason you and I want to talk about it so much, is it like shift your perspective. You can put a different lens on, and the show becomes very different depending on how you watch it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I do still feel really drawn to that, but at the same time, there is a part of me that's like, just kind of also at the same time yearning for a little like resolution or conclusion. And I don't know what, and this isn't like a complaint, it's more of a question. I don't know at this point what the show could do that will make me feel satisfied at the end. I don't know what I want.
I mean, I think that for me, obviously I lean more towards the realism side of it and it's trauma side of it. I'm fine with there being unexplained things. Mm-hmm. I just think that, like, something like this, the River of Blood, we've talked about this before, you can so easily get into the deepest rabbit hole and not be able to get out of it when you start thinking about, okay, well, if we're looking at unreliable narrators, also, it's like, okay, who's telling us this story? Mm-hmm. Are we an omniscient viewer, or are we getting it through the eyes of one of the characters or multiple of the characters? Right. You know, and that is where it gets, like, partly is where it gets interesting, but also is where it gets real dangerous to go down a rabbit hole of, well, nothing is real. Right. And there's nothing to hold on to. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, then I'm bummed because I want there to be some...
Right, because if it's like, well, the river, reality. They saw the river and the compass was spinning and that really happened. Yeah. How they choose to believe or not believe or rationalize or not, it has to do with them and how they process this event. Right. But what we know for sure is X, Y, Z.
Yeah, like
that's different than, well, it was all in somebody's head and who knows what really, whether they were even in the woods or left the woods or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. That's my fear. And I don't think they're going to end up in that place, but that is my fear of, like, if you start leaving too many things open-ended, you don't have solid ground at all to stand on.
Right.
You know? Right. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, they have their second night out, which is where it all goes wrong. Mm-hmm. They set up for bed. Ty tries to give a little pep talk. Nobody's having it. They're all scared, kind of wanting to go back home.
And it is Van's the one who shuts it down. We don't need another speech. Thaisa.
Yeah.
She gets full named. We just need to sleep.
Which I noticed that Simone also does when she's mad at her. Thaisa. Yeah. So Ty says she'll do first watch. Mm. Don't give the woman with a sleepwalking problem the first watch, guys.
Yeah, that's... Truly.
Big mistake.
Huge. Anyway,
before we go back to the actual wolf attack, we get a quick scene of Shauna up in the attic and she sees the little carved wolf that Javi made, which that didn't really occur to me as much when I first watched it, but like Javi is carving a wolf while they're getting attacked by wolves.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
And also, though,
is Javi psychic?
Hey, Jodie, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, exactly.
But also, I thought it was very sweet that he says, like, oh, I was looking for the knife for an art project, and we're like, bullshit. Yeah. Like, what's he need this knife for? Yeah. But it really was for an art project.
It was. And also, as somebody who attempted a bit of whittling this summer while on camping trips, that's hard to do.
You tried to whittle a little?
I tried to whittle a little, yes. I tried to make a spoon. It's not easy.
Seems like it wouldn't be.
No, it's not. I got a little knife for it and everything. It's just it's he's got a natural talent for this.
Showing some real potential to become an artist maybe later in life, you think?
Maybe, yeah.
Huh,
yeah.
interesting.
And they wonder why we were like so obsessed with this theory. Come on.
Watching this episode, 100% I was like, we say like, oh, they wanted to leave it open that maybe no.
They were planting it.
I really think that had like something shifted, but up until the end of this season, they were going to reveal that Adam was Javi.
I mean, they definitely had that in mind. Whether different, I don't know how far along they were when they changed their minds, but
it's almost like now I'm almost. It's like almost frustrating that they planted it so.
They did plant it so much.
Yeah, so much that for it to not like
so many points throughout the season. There's like little things and big things.
Yeah.
But she sees it. She smiles, goes to bed. We see the journal's gone. And then we immediately, like I said, get our answer. We see Jackie outside reading it and crying.
Oh, she's crying so much. It's so sad.
I mean, like...
I forgot she found out this, not early because we're wrapping up, but for some reason, I thought all of this came in the last episode, but...
Yeah, it all kind of... The question opens up pretty quickly and resolves pretty quickly about her finding out. But yeah, it's heartbreaking. She's like, not only did she find out that like her best friend and her boyfriend betrayed her, she's now stuck in the woods.
Yeah.
Hungry with that best friend. Like,
who she knows is pregnant with like, it's not just she found out that like Jeff was cheating on her with her best friend. Like,
yeah,
all of it is.
Yeah. And it's got to be like, you know, part of you wants, like, you know, she's been so caring about Shauna's physical condition for the last couple of episodes. And like, she must have felt so tricked, like, the whole time.
Yeah, I really, really feel for her.
Yeah. And then we jump to, this part feels like a dream to me, the whole thing. And like,
the way that she's perched in the tree.
And jumps down into the fog.
Yeah.
Like,
and like
she's so high up.
The way that even the wolves look so, and it's a TV show. I know they, whatever, but like the wolves look super fake, like more so than.
Everything's heightened. Like everything in this scene, it's played like it's a dream sequence. The way that it's filmed, the way it's lit, like the way it's blocked with the girls with their like
the way they're
fire.
all like lined up against the wolves who are lined up with the log, like it does it, and it like it feels intentionally,
it leans towards like a dream sequence.
Totally.
But
and there are moments, I'm trying to think of some others, but there definitely are moments throughout this series that make me feel like when people say things like we were sort of just alluding to earlier, that like, oh, maybe really what we're seeing in this 1996 timeline is somebody recounting what happened.
Right.
And like, this is an example of where we see that kind of, what's the word that I want? Not loosening. The like opacity between the telling and the story kind of thinning, like a veil, like, kind of, you know? Like if this then resolved into somebody sitting in a mental hospital or something telling the story, this would be where that reveal might happen. Yeah.
It would make me very angry, but it would also make some sense based on what we're seeing.
Right.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate that she is holding the bone that she took off of Van in the tree. That's nuts to me. I forgot about that.
I know.
Ty fires the flare gun. And
red
then
smoke.
Yeah, red smoke. And then goes fucking crazy. I forgot how violent this scene is with the axe when she's killing the wolf. This is like...
It goes on for a very long time.
Yeah. And I'm now reminded like, oh, and Ty sees a wolf repeatedly. It's like... she's being haunted by this moment in a way,
and
you know?
It feels very much like, and I don't think we were supposed to know whether or not, we know Ty survives this attack, and by the end of season 1, we know Ty survives this attack.
You mean Van?
Van.
Yeah,
I know that Van survives this attack. At the end of this episode, you think she's dead.
Right.
But we think...
But next episode, we find out she survives.
Right, exactly. But it still feels up until we learn for sure that Van is alive in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
You think that Ty is haunted by the death of Van. And I think the showrunners had it in mind that she might not make it to 2021 as well until we all said we love her so much, right?
Right. I think I remember that being part of the conversation.
And so it still makes sense that Ty would be haunted by that wolf with how this is the first. I mean, they've had a lot of traumatic incidents, plane crash and Ben's leg and so much gore and all of that. But this is like...
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So she kills the wolf with the axe extremely violently. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it had occurred to me, again, this is just my brain not making connections, but that the fact that she sees specifically wolves probably ties back to this.
Right. That this is the inciting moment of her deepest trauma.
Yeah. The fire goes out while she's doing this, which I thought was weird. And then we see that Van is missing like half of their face, which is
so
horrifying.
Gory.
It's so gross.
It's like...
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, and again, like, it's magic of TV, I know, but she heals up pretty well in the long run. This
is one of the least realistic or the most fantastical parts of this is the fact that, like, you know, a bunch of teen girls with some thread managed to save Van's whole face.
It would have been reconstructive facial surgery here
over years
with like skin grafts.
Yes.
And she wouldn't have come out looking as good as she does in 2021.
Nope.
Like, I don't care.
Nope.
But fine, whatever, fine.
Yeah. Bit of a stretch, let's say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember now that, like, when this episode first aired, I mean, she had to be dead.
Yeah, I was looking back at reviews just to see what people thought, and everybody was writing about it like this was Van's send-off for sure.
Nope. No. The magic of teen surgery.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is funny that Van almost dies in the plane crash.
She almost dies so many times.
She almost dies here. Like, I just think that Van has a strong will to live. And
you know, now in season 2, when we find out that she has cancer.
Well, Lottie's going to heal her. Don't worry.
That's the thing. Van doesn't die.
Right.
Like Van, things that kill other people don't kill Van.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll see.
Van will survive somehow.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Or we're relying on that because we love her, and it's going to be.
There's also that. I mean, it's heartbreaking
when we lose her.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. No, I think we're set up that, you know, things that kill other people, Van is okay. Mm-hmm. She survives somehow.
Her plucky spirit. But that's the end of 96.
Yes, that's the end of 96. We end on that sort of extremely dramatic scene that does not feel real. Mm-hmm. Is that the last scene in the episode, or is there one after that?
I think that's the last. That's the last one I have noted.
You're right. That's the last scene in the whole episode.
Because I think the last one we get in 2021 is Kevin and Nat.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
I like how 2021 picks up right where last week left off. Mm-hmm. I thought that was cool.
She's still up a tree.
Yeah.
She gets that text. Up a tree.
You know what? Here's something. Also, this scene of Tawny, love of our life. Mm-hmm. She's so good in that scene where she's watching the dirt off, bandaging her hand, and
her face.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
You know what? She took that bite out of her own hand, right?
Yes, that's what we're supposed to assume. Yes.
I read a couple of reviews this week where people were like, "Oh, I wonder if it's obviously not a dog bite, but was it Biscuit? Was it somebody in self-defense? Was it?" And I was like, I think my feeling has never been to question that it was anything other than Ty, and just like leaning into how dissociated and like animalistic she sort of becomes when she's in this sort of fugue state.
So though, Do we see Biscuit after this?
Oh,
or is this when we lose Biscuit?
We should be on Biscuit Watch. We'll have to be on Biscuit Watch.
Hold on. I'm going to open
and the
up.
parallel of her killing that wolf so brutally and us getting the first hint that this is where we lose Biscuit would make a lot of sense.
I'm going to open up real quick my notes from the following episodes, because I do want to see, now that you said that, because I wrote a note to myself this time. That bite is wild looking.
It does not look like an animal bite?
It doesn't look like a person bite. Like, the teeth are kind of spread apart.
It's really hard. This scene is shot so dark that it's hard to see.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. Okay. Well, then maybe.
So let me look at...
fascinating.
Let me look at my notes from the next couple of episodes real quick and just see if this is the end of Biscuit as a live dog.
I've still been holding on to, I know it's not the case, but I like the idea that something or somebody else had to do with Biscuit's death.
Oh, we know that's not true. She killed her dog.
And made a weird shrine to it despite not believing in all that shit.
She killed her dog. Let's see. Where are we with Ty? Okay. So I know that we don't want to go too far ahead, but I just want to, I want, in context of what we're talking about, think about where Ty is next.
We can go as far ahead as we want. That's
true. It doesn't matter.
Kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. So the next time we see Ty, she shows up at Shauna's house and says she's afraid of hurting her family.
So she will have already...
Let's look ahead. So she shows up. They have their little slumber party.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the affair, blah, blah, blah. Dude.
So this is when it happens.
It is. Because Ty, the next time we see Ty in the next episode, in episode 8, she comes home and sees Simone and Sammy making posters for Biscuit. This is when she kills Biscuit. How did we not realize this?
I thought, until I read a review of somebody being like, oh, I wonder if...
This is when she kills Biscuit. Because it is, like you said, it's paralleling the wolf attack.
Totally.
Right? So the wolf attack is going on in 96. She's killing her dog in 2021.
Fascinating.
Probably, maybe with an axe, because she'd attacked the wolf with an axe.
Right. Well, and Biscuit was beheaded.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if not with an axe, we know she has that machete she went after the wolf with when she told, in my head, not machete, she grabs like a
knife.
Cleaver is the word I wanted.
Oh, right.
I think it's a meat cleaver that she grabs, if I remember correctly. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Ty is weaponized. She has weapon in 2021.
Yeah.
That is
That's when she kills him.
Of
when
course.
She's in that fugue state and ends up in the tree. And that's why she has bite marks on her hand. How the fuck have I watched this show 17 times?
Again, because everything
just made that connection.
And because I thought all this time the bite was self-inflicted.
Yeah. But I noticed that bite being weird from the beginning. Like, it doesn't look like a human bite.
Well, I thought it was she really tore into her own hand. And that shows how deep under she was.
But the spacing of the teeth is not human.
See, yeah, I guess I didn't get a good enough look. I just
thought it was an oversight.
Well, it's apparently...
No, it's our oversight.
And it is so sad. And it's also, man, I love thinking about when people talk about, just bear with me for a moment. You're always bearing with me, but in this case especially, one of the very like outside theories on the show has to do with like time travel or parallel timelines, that kind of thing. And I don't think that's what's going on.
Mm-mm.
But there is something to be said about the way these women are so trapped in the past that like you can overlay what's happening in 2021 against it. And the back and forth is so intentional to draw those connections in like a emotional way and then visually for us, but to think about it having like to think about it more literally lining up that way is really interesting.
Like, it's almost like she's reenacting that moment in the woods with her poor sweet dog,
right?
Like,
which is PTSD, like severe PTSD can do that. Like, think about like people coming home from war and like they hear a loud noise and then they're right back in it and can't distinguish really.
Yeah,
I know that's not how
Ty, this
PTSD works
happens-
for everybody, but really severe cases, it certainly can.
Yeah, and for Ty, these things happen when she's asleep.
Yep.
And so it happens when she's asleep in the woods. You know, she's up a tree, and then she ends up having to kill the wolf to save Van. And then in 2021, she goes to sleep and wakes up having done the exact same thing again.
Heartbreaking. Well, she wakes up having done the same thing and then building a shrine with her dead dog's head. That part.
Also, Biscuit probably wasn't trying to kill her wife.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that Biscuit has that disposition.
Man, this is just me but it makes me so sad to think that he was awake when it happened.
I don't know.
I mean, if he was able to try to fight back.
Now I'm sad.
I know.
She's woken up by the texts from Nat.
Yeah, not cutting off the dog's head, crawling into a crawl space, building a shrine. It's the texts from Nat.
That sound will wake you up, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's go time.
Yep.
And Nat's texting her to hurry up. It's yikes. Now thinking about what she was just doing when she's getting those texts.
I know.
I'm like mad at myself for not making this connection until now, but I'll have to get over it.
Again, with everything. And we're talking about those two scenes being paralleled, or those two moments being paralleled, but the scenes aren't. They're at opposite ends of the episode. This is the first thing we see in
That's true.
This and the last thing we see. One of the last things we see in 96. Right. Or in the episode.
Right.
It's a good thing we're doing this.
Yeah. Ty and Shauna show up while Nat is hanging out smoking.
Mm-hmm.
She has the bag that Callie made for Jeff back when she was cute. I love how much Shauna shits on her daughter.
Such an asshole. Last week I asked why Nat was so mean to Shauna about Jeff hawking futons, but Shauna just very callously says we all have families and lives. We can't just sneak out a window.
They're both so mean to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's no, I don't know why it didn't occur to me that this was like, clearly something happened because in the woods, they're not sniping at each other like that. They're barely interacting.
Right.
Like they're having just normal interactions. They're not paired against each other really.
No.
Until the very end when, like we said, the choosing of the next antler queen happens.
So I'm very interested to see what happens in season 3 with the two of them because they are in a way that like, again, she even talks about it a little later. She's much more patient with Nat. Ty and Shauna are much closer. Like, it is interesting.
Also, just to note that Shauna's wearing a butterfly shirt here.
In 2021?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I can't believe I missed that after that's the Glimmer of Hope shirt she's wearing.
Yeah.
In 96 is covered in butterflies.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
She's in her butterfly shirt and a lavender cardigan.
Huh.
I might note.
It's not heliotrope?
No, I'm the one that called it lavender, so maybe it is heliotrope.
Ty refers to her car as her baby in this scene, which is very funny considering how happy she is to destroy it and her wife.
Yeah.
Not
too far off, yeah. I love how there's like all these constant references to what this would be if it was a movie. Like in the woods, Van is talking about what would be happening if this was a movie. And Shauna's like, I expected the money to be bigger. Like,
it's really good.
Yeah.
And it kind of like
a movie.
Gets in the way of her tracker plan because it's hard to hide the tracker in the money then.
Yeah, they just throw trash in the bag, which doesn't seem like a great idea.
All of these women suffer from because they came to rely on themselves so much out in the woods and made it back.
Yeah.
I really think they think the people around them are not capable.
Yeah, they definitely have an inflated sense of their own abilities.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So Nat, for some reason, takes Ty's car and doesn't know how to start it. Which, relatable. If I ever got into a big fancy car like that, I'd be like, what do I do?
What the hell? Yeah.
Nat drops the bag in the bin. Ty and Shauna are just kind of hanging out and talking. This is where, like you said, we find out that Ty paid for Nat's last rehab.
That line that we've talked about so much, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her.
Right. Which now looking at it, I think just has to do with Nat getting them through the winter as their like antler queen. I don't think it has to do with the find. I don't know. Maybe it does, but like I don't.
Could be both. It could be.
Yeah.
It certainly at least is in part referring to that.
Yeah.
Because she's also the one. She and Travis were the ones in season 2 who are mapping
right
the land too. So
yeah. Although their official line is like they found us, and so I'm like, how? Like, does it have to do with Nat and Travis going, or did somebody stumble upon them? Like, it needs to be 2025 so I can find out how they get found.
I know.
That's like the thing I most want to know is how they got out.
It is. I am most interested at this point in how they got out and what 1998 or whatever 99 looks like for them.
Yeah, for sure. This is also where I started to feel. I mean, I always feel bad for Nat because of the way they wrote her, but I felt really bad for her here because Shauna and Ty are talking about her and talking to her like she is an idiot.
Yep.
Like she is a broken toy or a child. Like they're just so rude with her.
Yeah, it really. And she like the way that she like tries to when she tells them that she's been sleeping with Kevin Tan.
Yeah.
And she's like, he's actually kind of nice. Like it to see her try to, I don't know.
I know.
It's everything about this scene is really heartbreaking.
They're so condescending. We get a quick shot of Misty watching Kevin sleep.
I know we love her.
Yeah.
She is. I mean, Misty is very much the when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yes.
Like, Misty is the best example of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jess is screaming in the basement. I had literally, there was so much else going on in this episode, I kind of forgot Misty had Jess tied up in her basement.
God, I love Jessica Roberts so much.
I know.
I want you to tell me the truth. Okay, your haircut is unflattering.
It's one of the best lines.
It is another, like, Misty is just in a totally different show than the rest of the people in this show.
Yeah. Simultaneously, we see the beacon starts moving, and then we also go back to Misty, where she's watching, like we said before, while you were sleeping on an old TV.
Jessica says that she's sure Travis was murdered, which I think is really interesting because Jessica is like the least involved in all the crazy. Like she is like an outside voice. She's given us no reason to think that she's like a conspiracy theorist or anything.
Right.
She's clearly been through some shit. She says it's not her first time being held hostage, and I believe her.
Yeah. So
like the fact that she is so sure that Travis was murdered, I know it's because of the bank account thing, and that's what it points to and makes a kind of sense. Like that would be her. But it's still, to me, I'm like, even knowing all of that.
Yeah, it's notable that she's that sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because Misty is saying that she's protecting her friends, and she's blaming Jess for all of these, the blackmail and all of that stuff. And Jess is like, what are you even talking about?
Right. But she's so smart when she's like, we should be partners on this. Like, she's really trying to, and we fall for it up until the cigarettes. We think Misty has also fallen for it,
which she clearly has not.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like this back and forth of them being like trying to manipulate each other, and then Misty breaks that little spell by just like slapping her. Rude.
We get a really good needle drop next.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I don't have it written down.
Is that next? It's Firestarter.
Yes, that is next. Yeah. I forgot I didn't have that part written down. But yeah, so the three of them drive to the bin. They see a truck coming in. They like think that that's the guy, which it isn't. Nat pulls out the gun. Like,
yep.
Come on.
Poor impulse control.
Oh, seriously. It's so funny. There's like multiple mini movies happening at the same time. Like we have the little horror movie dream sequence. We have Misty in whatever dark comedy she's in. Later on, Adam refers to being in a French farce.
In a French farce. That's one of my favorite lines of the whole series.
I know. But here, it's like a heist movie.
Yeah.
It's like an Ocean's 11 or they're like chasing him through this warehouse, their thrift store, whatever the hell it is. Runs into a bag of glitter.
Before the glitter, Ty says, take the wing Hold
Yes.
on. Wait, I have it written down. I want to make sure I get this right.
Yeah.
Take the wing. I'll mark him like at States.
Yeah.
It's so silly. It is such like I sort of do need to be reminded that these were
soccer players
and like really capable, successful athletes who had like a real future ahead of them that way, if not for the crashing and their lives being ruined and all of that.
Yeah.
But I'll mark him like it States is so silly to be even thinking about right now.
In your 40s.
Like,
yeah. Like that they immediately went back to that.
Yeah.
Versus the fact that they've literally chased people through the woods. I was
just going to say,
killed them.
What she should have said was, take the wing. Yeah. I'll chase him like we did Javi.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
This should have really, you know what? This should have really this moment should have really fucked all of them up. Like, the rest of this episode should be the three of them, like, I don't even know what, like,
yeah,
violently throwing up. Like the fact that this didn't throw them right back to chasing Javi.
But they love the adrenaline.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Shauna seeking out all this self-destructive behavior. Yep. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So who we now know is Jeff runs into a giant thing of glitter. Nat's like still running around with her gun. Mm-hmm. He gets away. But not until Nat fires like at him and Ty like knocks her out of the way. Yeah. It's like, what the hell is she gonna do?
She says I wasn't gonna kill him, but like you weren't not trying to like.
Yeah. You were pointing a gun in his general direction.
Yeah.
We get that great Ty line, we look for an asshole covered in glitter.
Oh, Jeff. Though at the end of this episode you think Adam is gonna be the asshole covered in glitter.
Oh yeah,
which they still use when Shauna thinks it is him because she finds the glitter. Remember a few weeks back I was really confused about that of like how the glitter and it's that they had us
put Adam in the closet.
So it's like the glitter could have been Adam or Jeff, and I just like this is what I mean about them like planting so many different possibilities that it's like hard to keep track.
Yeah, absolutely. So then they're sitting in the car together at the end of the little heist movie that we've had. And this is like, again, they're being so fucking mean to Nat. And Shauna says, like, we've done worse
than murder. Is it just now? Now we know. I don't think we're pointing to anything worse happening out in the woods at this point than we've seen, other than the ways in which they carry out. Yeah, right.
Like ritualistic hunting of people. Yeah,
but it's like they're like that Javi. Like knowing what happens to him is the first thing that came to mind watching it this time.
But Shauna is like super defensive. She tells her to speak for herself and not drag them into her endless pit of guilt. Just like, dude, you should have things to feel guilty about. Yeah. I mean, you know.
Well, and that's when Nat calls them on it and says like, no, we're all fucked up. You guys are just pretending. Like, yeah. And she's right. Like,
she's so right. Yeah.
She's her behavior, I think you said this last week, in 2021 makes the most sense out of any of them.
Absolutely. Yes. If you've been through that, I would certainly have Nat's reactions. Oh my God. And Shauna gets home and sees Adam.
Wow, I can't believe you didn't mention Route 9. I was letting you have it. I was leaving that for you.
That's not a part of North Jersey that I spent a lot of time in, to be fair. If she'd mentioned Route 46, I would have jumped all over it. Okay. But yeah, they're not Bergen Passaic folks, I don't think.
Right.
But yeah, Adam is sitting outside of her house at 4 a.m. Like, dude.
Explain this to me, Jodie.
Fucking relax.
What is he doing?
So I think what they want us now to think was happening then, after season 2, is that he became obsessed with her. This is when he's painting all these portraits of her. He's drawn in. He's showing up at 4 a.m. He's obsessed. He like can't get enough of her. But it does not read that way in the moment. It reads as him being, like, really fucking suspicious.
Yeah. I like the idea at this point that it could have been anybody, that it is obvious they want you to think Adam was the one, and that he, and like kind of like in Scream when Billy shows up at her house right after the attack to try to like, and actually ends up making himself seem even more suspicious. Like he's like trying to like give himself an alibi.
Right. Yeah, no, that's definitely what this feels like in the moment. And he also kind of, so there's a weird line that he keeps dancing on where like he gets these looks on his face that are kind of like aggressive, scary. Like he grabs her pretty aggressively here.
Yeah.
And says like that she wants to blow things up and see what happens. And
he
that's
says,
where
you're just like me or something. Every single cell in your body wants to blow things up and see what happens.
Yeah. And he's not wrong, but he would only know that about her if he knew about her past.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because otherwise they're just like, the other times we see them together, they're like playing mini golf and like drinking screwdrivers in a truck. Like they're not, and she has been kind of like more careful than you would think she would be if that was the impression that he was going to get.
It is unfair of this show to be pretending now like this isn't what, and I want to apologize to the people that I've been giving a hard time about it, because they've set us up. Obvious that's what they were setting up.
Yeah.
I also, this is a little nitpicky of me. He says I didn't see any cars, so I took a risk, or I took a gamble. They have one car. Why wouldn't you assume Shauna was out with her husband, and that when they pulled up, he was going to be in the car with her?
That's a good point. Yeah, like why would you assume that they were separated at like 4 a.m?
It's a really weird.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So I don't know.
He makes no sense to me in some ways in this whole first season.
Totally.
Like they're really trying to have it every possible way.
That's what it is. It's like if they weren't planning on Adam being a bigger deal and being Javi, to be totally clear. They set up or just trying to use him as a red herring. They set it up too red. Yeah. It's not just teasing.
And I think even if it's not connected to him having at some point maybe having been Javi, like this is setting him up to be so much more involved than he theoretically ends up being.
Yeah, and you could have scaled it back a little bit and done the interesting thing that they're pretending they're doing of Shauna read too much into it because blah, blah, blah. Like they've been telling this story to themselves all along, and now this poor guy who was infatuated with her for whatever reason, got caught up in it.
The easiest way, honestly, to get out of this Adam Javi thing is to acknowledge or kind of like tie together the narrative that Adam is a crazy fan. That he is one of those people that is obsessed with the Yellowjackets, that found her, fell in love with her, because he was already obsessed with the story, and then she kills him. Like,
right.
That is a way to have some of that suspicion that they're planting make sense, but not go so far as to say like, oh, it's secretly the person that she knew for this whole time when she was younger, like it doesn't recognize somehow.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's a way to get out of this that they had available.
But
yeah,
we'll see.
Nat's also arriving home.
The way they do the close-up on that gun.
Yeah.
It's the way they did the close-up on the journal, too, as if we're, like, not watching the show. It's like, yeah, I know she had the gun. But okay. Yeah.
Kevin is a real heavy sleeper. I am jealous.
I know. I thought same thing, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
Totally.
She climbs back in bed. We get another conversation between Misty and Jess. She's like threatening to send fentanyl-laced chocolates to Jess's father.
And I think watching it the first time, I was like, that's a crazy threat, Misty. You are really like laying it on here. What a performance. But She 100% would have sent that chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she does the same thing with the cigarettes
Mm-hmm.
later on. Yeah. And this is where, we did this whole thing a couple of episodes ago where we tried to break down the timing
right.
of Travis's death. Mm-hmm. Right. And this is where we get the Jess piece of that information. We don't actually see her there, but we hear her say that she was at his house before he was killed. She brought him that whiskey, that expensive whiskey that we saw, and that he wouldn't talk. And then she went home. And that was the extent of it from what she says here.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where she says she looked into his bank account and it was closed right after he died. She doesn't say by who, and we don't know if she knows by who.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
Because later on we find out from that other woman.
Right.
That Nat bribes or blackmails.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Now we're in our French farce.
I've never been in a French farce before. It's very funny.
It really is. He's a little too chill about this whole thing, though.
Yeah.
About Jeff finding them.
Adam makes no sense.
Yeah, he's a little too, like, this is funny. And I'm like, is it? Like,
right.
Is it?
Sure. Because it's,
Because her husband just got home and he could, like, beat the shit out of you or, or you could ruin this woman's life. Like,
right. That's what I mean. Everything about him is suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah. He hides in the closet. She gets back in bed.
Everything about Jeff is suspicious.
Like, he's just getting back from the store. And we know, of course, he's getting back from this whole thing. Although I did have a moment where I was like, okay, so he runs away with the money. There's like many, many hours that pass. Enough for them to hang out in the car and talk, them to get home, her to bring Adam inside, them to have sex, and then fall asleep. This is so unimportant, but like, what did Jeff do during that time? Did he go back to the store? Did he hide the money? Like,
I mean, I think he probably knew that it would be more suspicious to come home in the middle of the night than to say, like.
Yeah. He probably went back to the store and like hid the money somewhere.
Also, whose car did he have? Randy's, so he probably had to like coordinate. How does she think he got, if she had the van? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how he got, maybe Uber. They talk about Uber a lot in this show. Yeah.
He must have. She must think he Ubered, but he must have Randy's car is my guess. Because we know Randy's in on it, right?
Yes. Yes. Because Randy knows. Well, I don't know if he's in on it, but he knows about it.
He knows about it.
Yeah. When Jeff asks Shauna how her night was, she says, it was boring. Callie slept at Alana's. I made some soup.
I made myself some soup.
Yeah.
It's my kind of Friday night.
Yes. Yeah. And then our last scene, I know.
I hate it.
I know, I hate it too. Because it's like, we have a hot minute where we think, maybe Nat and Kevin can like have something, maybe, that is not toxic. And then she just like, nope.
And it's really nice to see somebody competent in a TV show because people so rarely are, though.
Yes.
Like, of course he knows his gun was fired. Like, and the way that for his sake, again, I love Nat, but for his sake, the way he's like, she lies to him and he looks like for a second, like he's going to not believe it, but let her lie.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, I don't believe you. I was like, it's so refreshing to see somebody do that. Like,
have like a realistic take on things. Like he has, like we said before, he has an ex-wife, he has a child, he has a job, he like is kind of a rule follower. Yeah. She says that she sat in a park and it accidentally went off. But yeah, she tells him he's pathetic.
I know. You can see on her face that she hates doing it, but
yeah.
This is the scene I was talking about at the beginning of our episode. She's so good here, Juliette Lewis. It is like you can tell how hard it is for her to do it, but she feels like she has to.
Yeah. It's so sad because like every time we think maybe Nat has a shot, at getting her shit together.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken away again.
You know what's really sad? Now
What?
they're both dead.
They are.
And he's got a kid.
That is sad. Yeah. And he didn't really do anything to earn this.
I mean, ACAB, but other than that, he did nothing wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, he just wanted to help Nat. And then he, like an adult, realized when things were too far gone for him to be involved with his responsibilities and walked away.
Right.
Like, we see him at the end of episode 10 with, like, a new girl because he's like, this is too much for me. I can't do this.
How does he end up? It doesn't matter now. Well, we won't get there. We have already gotten there.
Yeah.
I forget how he ends up at Lottie's.
He ends up there because
does he follow Shauna?
Walter gives a tip.
That's right.
Remember?
That's right.
Walter sets it up.
That's right.
Yeah. Our
what a show.
Our little mastermind behind the scenes.
Wait, what's his? Hold on, his handle.
Oh,
putting
my God,
the sick in forensics.
That's right. Walter,
little lunatic.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, once we get to the end of season 1, we're going to pick right back up at season 2.
No, we're not.
We'll move right through all those episodes and swing right back around to season 1. And we're just going to keep doing that until we get to 2025. So we'll get back to Walter eventually.
And then I will be the one in a Swiss mental hospital.
Finger painting in a Swiss mental hospital.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely.
Finger painting, I couldn't. I was too
Actually,
much of
that sounds like a textural nightmare.
Exactly.
But, you know.
I could not get my hands dirty when I was a kid. I could not get paint on my hands. Okay. That's episode 7.
Yeah.
Next week, Flight of the Bumblebee. After a vicious attack, the girls suss out the best of their worst ideas.
I think it is time to buckle
the fuck up,
as they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Oh my God. So I pulled up the Reddit thread on the next episode just to find the synopsis. And one of the first comments was texting my friends now to tell them that if I get bit by a wolf in the woods to check if I'm alive before throwing me in a fire.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, I mean, we know now, obviously, that when we get back to the next episode, Van is not, in fact, dead. She is alive with a gaping hole in her face.
It's really bad.
Yeah. It's wild.
Though, she was just attacked by wolves, so anything that isn't death is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's lucky the rest of her insides are still inside.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But yeah, we are in the back half. Mm-hmm. There's so much that is still to come, though.
Totally.
It's crazy how much is going to happen in the next 3.
Which is, I think, why people, I think us included, maybe sometimes got, or maybe not, I don't know. I don't remember how I felt, but about those episodes in season 2 that people complained were slower. And as we've said, in our season 1 rewatch now, this show does take moments to slow down, and it has since the beginning, but coming on the heels of these last 3 episodes of season 1, where it is breakneck to the end, I can see why we all felt like season 1 was so fast moving and intense.
Yeah, especially because the last half of it, or the last 3 or 4 episodes, are so nuts. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. I was just looking ahead to what's coming. Oh, my goodness.
What is next week's episode called? Did you already say?
Yeah, Flight of the Bumblebee. Yeah. It's going to be a little tough to watch Nat in the next few episodes, I think.
I know. Yes.
Because she is sort of there's that really rough scene coming up where she is basically almost overdosing, or that Misty's comic relief breaks up, where she comes in and tries to snort all the cocaine.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, she is already in a low place and gets lower. It is really sad.
Yeah. Just a quick little side note. I think I texted you about this. I ended up being fed some crime FBI story on Netflix called The Night Agent. And if our listeners are looking for more of our favorite actors while we are on a break.
Yes.
It came out last year, I guess. I'm sure people have probably seen it already. I don't know. I watch a lot of like sort of British crime dramas on Netflix. And this one was fed to me, and I opened it thinking it was a British crime drama, and it's not. It's American, which is slightly less fun. But anyway, point being that Simone Kessel has a brief role, and Sarah Desjardins, our Callie, has a very significant role throughout most of the first season, and has a sort of pivotal place in the plot, which is a lot of things to say. But yeah, it's fun seeing her in a slightly different role. She still plays sort of we think an annoying teenager, but in the end, she ends up sort of helping save the day, which is all I will say. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's not an amazing show. It's very pulpy and very over the top FBI thing.
Sometimes that's what you're in the mood for, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
So
cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I have nothing to recommend.
Well, I guess that's it.
I think that's it.
We'll end with a whimper. We've been
Find us at WatchersPodNJ on Instagram, WatchersPodNJ at Gmail. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. I'm at AQ Andrea Q on the places.
On the places. And I am Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM on Instagram. And come find us. Maybe leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. A nice little review on Apple Podcasts. Be happy to share it on the show.
Yeah. We will see you in the woods.
In the woods.
On fire.